Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Josef Schachter, founder of the Schachter Energy Report online at SchachterEnergyReport.ca. He's speaking to us from Calgary. Welcome back to the show, Josef.
My pleasure. Good to be with you, Jim.
And if everything goes according to plan, the Calgary Stampede will be on this year.
That's what our premier said today, and same thing for, up in Edmonton, the Klondike Days. So it looks like people will be having a summer, and hopefully our tourism industry will come back, and our hotels and restaurants will be busy. And, I think, we all would look forward to getting back to some normalcy here, and I'm looking forward to it.
And if people don't think Albertans don't want to get back to normal and what kind of spirit they'll put into it, after the big floods that swept through Calgary, the future of the Calgary Stampede was in doubt. And I said to my wife, I was born in Calgary, I kind of understand it. I said, the people in Calgary, if they have to hold plywood boards over their heads for the chuck wagon races, the Stampede will go ahead.
Yeah.
And it did. I'm not saying they had to hold plywood boards over their head, but I just said it'll happen. And
yeah, this city is very resilient. The province is very resilient, and they come back from each of the when you get an economic or a healthcare shock, everybody gets together and works it out. And there are casualties. A lot of businesses did go under because of the pandemic, but a lot of new ones are being created, and a lot of the downtown core is still very dead, but you get out of the downtown core, things are a little busier. And, we're still seeing layoffs, Synovus Husky merger, 2,000 people laid off, and, there may be more, as they sell assets and the buyers don't take the people. So there may be, some more layoffs, but, I think we're getting down close to probably a bottom in terms of the employment in, the downtown, employers. And of course, with everybody being able to go back to work, downtown will start being busier, and probably starting in July, maybe even as early as June, sometime late June.
You'll be able to ride your horse through downtown if it stays quiet.
Well, in my case, it'll be a bike, but okay.
What's the latest from the Schachter Energy Report?
Well, today we got an interesting report where, everybody was excited that there was a decline of 1.7 million barrels from the EIA in crude stocks, but it was all made up because of the net imports fell by 265,000 barrels a day, or 1.9 million on the week. So that was part of it. But so there's a kind of a tug of war going on between the bulls out there, Goldman Sachs and Barclays, that think we're going to see $80 crude by the end of the year, and they're basing that on 4 to 5 million barrel increase in demand or consumption between now and year end. Right now we're about 96 million barrels. You pop on that the 5 million or so they're talking about, then you'd be back to pre-pandemic levels of January or early February of 2020 of about 101 million barrels. I don't buy that. I think we're going to maybe add another 2 million barrels a day. So we might go from, the 95, 96 million, probably up to 97 million by the end of the year. But offsetting that, we're getting 2.1 million barrels coming on during the months of May, June, and July by OPEC. The U.S., I think, is going to raise production by about 500,000 barrels between now and year end. And then the wild card, and the reason why we've seen these big swings, last week, if you remember, on Wednesday, we were at $62 WTI. Today, we're $66 WTI. And that is because of what's happening with the discussions in Vienna with the UN and Iran and the United States over a new agreement. And if they are able to sign a deal in the next month, then in July, Iran would be able to start increasing production. And there's talk that they're going to remove sanctions on the banking industry, the energy industry, and on shipping. And if they do agree to allow sanction lifting there, then the Iranians, which are probably now producing, I believe the number is 2.8 or 2.9 million barrels. It was 2.39 million barrels in April, will be able to increase production by 1 million barrels a day before the end of the year and 2 million in next year. And one of the reasons that they'll be able to increase production is they've built a new pipeline that doesn't go into the Straits of Hormuz, but goes to a place called in the Gulf of Oman, and they're talking about that pipeline being ready to start producing oil immediately. So then they'd be able to ship oil to the Asian buyers and gain some market share. So that's the kind of tug of war we're in. I think that the Biden administration wants to have a deal with Iran and to halt their nuclear program. And in return, of course, sanction relief will go to Iran, and they're desperate for revenue, so they'll sell as many barrels of oil as they can.
How does that affect oil production in Canada?
It doesn't. It just, we export to the U.S. The U.S. really doesn't import very much from OPEC. It did a little bit buying from Saudi Arabia and from Nigeria and at one point from Iraq. But most of the consumption that they're in terms of imports, which is Canada, really has the biggest market share. Almost 60% of imports in the States come from us. They import from Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, and so it's more of the North America, South America business that meets the consumption requirements of the United States. And again, with U.S. Driving picking up and flying, Memorial Day weekend looks like it's going to be busier than the Memorial Day weekend before the pandemic. We're looking at the consumption will pick up, and consumption did pick up. This week it was at 19.9 million, up from 19.3 million the week before, and a year ago when it was 15.9 million. So you're seeing a pickup in demand as more and more states open up, and as the herd immunity and the vaccination rates pick up. So we're on the way back in terms of recovery, but that in North America is one part of it. Europe's a little bit better, and demand is picking up there. But now you've got problems in Asia, Japan, of course, with the problems deciding yes or no on the Olympics. We've got Singapore now under lockdown again, Malaysia under lockdown, Vietnam. So while there's been success in some places like here in North America, and as we talked earlier about BC and Alberta, Manitoba's still got problems. So there still are kind of embers of problems that are still occurring around the world that will halt demand getting back to the pre-pandemic levels, in my opinion, until 2022.
In BC, we've heard that another major investor has pulled out of an LNG project. What's the story there?
Yeah, you had the second project that I think it's Woodside, and I'm not sure who the other partner was, but I was at Chevron or something. But the Shell project is going forward, and again, that's the big one for everybody. It will bring on about the 2 BCF more of consumption in phase one. Other LNG projects, there's probably a window for them in terms of demand, but with all the issues of getting through environmental, indigenous discussions, and getting the approvals from the different levels of government, makes it a lot more difficult for getting more projects. I think in the end we will have more, but once LNG Canada is successful and they go to phase two and all of the infrastructure is already built, so you just build another train facility and export capability, and then you just add compression on the pipeline to move more natural gas through it. That makes a lot of sense. And then once you have that right of way, then other projects could come on in Kitimat because you already have the infrastructure in place from where the gas is in northeast BC and northwest Alberta. to the coast. And then, of course, it'll just be the economics of new projects and the demand in Asia where you can sign contracts for it. So with everybody wanting to go to a cleaner burning fuel emission-wise, natural gas is the winner over coal and over diesel. So there is this is going to be the transition fuel until we have enough renewables or decisions are made that we're going to add to nuclear. But I think natural gas has a long life ahead of it, and that's going to be a very big benefit to Western Canada.
Apparently, China has built so much solar, they have a surplus of solar power, and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know about that because they're still building coal-fired facilities like crazy, and you may have seen in comments today that they're stopping, Bitcoin creators because they're using electricity from coal, and they want to stop that, and they also want to regulate Bitcoin in their markets. So, you are still seeing a lot of, bad environmental policy via the construction of coal-fired facilities, and they do it because they have the coal and it's employment and jobs, and they're not, they should be stopping that. India should be stopping it as a first phase, but again, India, is importing some natural gas, but they're going to have to import more, but that's a balance of trade issue, so they need to sell more stuff. So India's boxed in right now, and they're still adding more coal. But the biggest, user of coal, 50% of coal-fired electricity facilities in the world is China.
How do we get China off coal? Is it Canadian LNG? Is that the answer, or are the Russians going to supply it with their $13 billion pipeline?
I think the Chinese government has to make the decision. I think they've thrown a number of 2050 out, while you're looking at the United States talking 2030 and 2035 to get their numbers down. So I think that in the end, China is going to have to make a big decision about it. But you've got the same thing happening in Germany and Poland, where in eastern Germany and in Poland, a large number of the population are employed in the coal industry. So they've got to find ways to train them to go into, let's say, renewables, solar panel and work or other wind work or whatever. But these things are very hard, even for economies like Germany, which has the wealth to close down the coal-fired facilities. But they have, what do they do with the people and the populations in those rural areas of Eastern Germany, formerly Eastern Germany? That is a big problem, and they haven't made much progress, and they've added coal-fired facilities and added more coal electricity in recent years because of the issues. Yes, they're using more natural gas. The new pipeline, Biden finally agreed to allow that pipeline to go, which is, which helps, Germany and others getting natural gas via pipe. But it also hurts Ukraine, which was getting transit fees, and that was helping their economy. So you get it with one hand, you take it away with the other. But this is going to be a long process, and you may have seen the announcement that Shell, the Netherlands courts, have ordered them to lower their environmental footprint and given them a court order to do it so that they have to meet the climate change requirements of the EU.
We'll have more with Josef Schachter right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Josef Schachter. Joseph, with Michigan trying to shut down that pipeline number 5 that goes to Ontario and Quebec eventually, is it time for Canada to build its own pipeline to the east? Because Ontario and Quebec still seem to be very resistant to that.
Yeah, there's the line is still open, even though the Michigan governor ordered to be shut down by a certain time. But until there's court approval that it be shut down, it can't be shut down. So that's what's going on now, is negotiations under court supervision to come and see a resolution. It's the same thing like with the Dakota Access Pipeline. Recently a court last week said that the pipeline can stay open while the hearings continue, and and there's decisions by the engineering if that can stay open long term. I think Line 5 will end up being allowed to stay on. The question is, what are they going to do for the Straits of Mackinac to build the concrete lined pipeline? And I think in the end maybe they'll make it tighter, restriction wise, or tighter environmental standards. But I think there's going to be a positive resolution there in the end, which is what Enbridge has been proposing. The issue of Energy East, I think, is a dead issue. With Quebec being so antagonistic to it, you need to go through the province, and that's not going to happen given the current political leadership there and the current anti-energy attitude of the population in the province.
Yeah, which is kind of ironic because I think Quebecers are the biggest owners of SUVs, the vehicles that use the most gasoline.
Yeah, but their view is, look, if we don't get energy via Line 5, and this is Quebec, we can always import it from Saudi Arabia or Nigeria or whoever else we want. And it could be cheaper.
Is it frustrating for Albertans to hear Quebec would rather have Arab oil than Canadian oil?
I think that's a definitive yes. We buy a lot of product from Quebec, but how much do they buy back from us? Well, I think that's the logic is something that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, what if Albertans stop buying Skidoos, which are made by Quebec's Bombardier?
Yeah, Polaris will get some benefit. The Americans will win.
Yeah, there's always that big debate. What's better, a Skidoo or a Polaris? Yeah. Joseph, anything else we should be keeping an eye on right now?
I think that it'll be the speed of the recovery of economies over the next few months, and if we do see that, then 2022 is going to be a much better year for the commodity industries, not only energy, but lumber, metals, all the rest of it. But my gut tells me that with the amount of monetary stimulus and the amount of increase in inflationary costs of many commodities, and now we're seeing labor increases with wage increases coming in Amazon to $15, Bank of America, you may have seen, going to 20 and then 25 a few years later. That wage inflation is coming, and if you and I from the 70s remember the wage inflation, and that's when the central banks had to tighten up and raise interest rates to slow the economy down. And right now, with housing prices going nuts across the country to the upside, I think the transitory assumption that the Federal Reserve is making on commodities is wrong. And that we'll start seeing them slow down their pace of buying of bonds and mortgage to keep interest rates low. And with interest rates rising, that will be something that will slow the economic recovery because of the inflation concerns. And so I would be watching economic data points in the next little while and the inflation points. And if those numbers look bad, then I think you're going to be looking at higher interest rates, and that will cool the economy down sometime later this year, which then would mean prices of energy would back off, and lumber prices probably would back off, corn prices, all the ones that have been going crazy to the upside in the last year or so.
Joseph, thank you so much for being on the show. My pleasure as always, Jim. My guest has been Josef Schachter, founder of the Schachter Energy Report, online at schachterenergyreport.ca. He was speaking to us from Calgary. If you have any questions for Joseph or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Find us on YouTube on Talk Digital Network. We're on Twitter at House Street. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at talkdigitalnetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.